What's up everybody, Proxyrops here, and Legos. There's so much that can be said about them. One of the easiest to grasp concepts, allowing them to help stem the basis of childlike imagination with no limit, all the way to having their own sets that are used to help fuel STEM fields. For those of you that don't know what STEM stands for, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Theoretically, you could go to college to play with and build Legos in certain courses. This simple idea of building blocks that can be stacked and connected has been around since 1932 and remains mostly unchanged to this day. While yes, they constantly release new sets ranging from their own lines like Classics, Lego City, and one of my newer favorites, Hidden Sides, as well as licensed products like Marvel, Harry Potter, and the series that got me back into Legos, Overwatch. With how simple they are as a product at the core of things, they can be used to create pretty much anything. There are people out there who build life-size models of regular objects, celebrities, cars, or even creations of their own fantasy. There's just no limit to what someone can make with a good idea. And speaking of ideas, in my first build episode I would like to talk about and build Ideas Kit number 28, the Dinosaur Fossils. During this build I would like to judge this book by its cover and literal booklets. Ideas Kits already having such a vast variety of what they can be helps them stand out enough, but you can always determine them from other sets just by their box alone. As well as something I have yet to see in any kit I have previously owned, 3 separate instruction booklets. While I have built sets containing 2 booklets due to the sheer size of the build or because it did have 2 separate items to the kit, this was the first time I have ever seen a set with 3 separate instructions. Now that really wouldn't be a turning point for many, but I think the more people that can get in on building a set together like this makes it a lot more fun. Personally, I'm quite excited to make this today because this will become my 3rd idea set for my collection. The 2 others I have are Steamboat Willie from Disney and Central Perk from Friends. Just simply due to how these sets are conceived gives them some of the biggest variations of uniqueness Legos can have. The simplest way to describe how the process goes is each kit is created and submitted by fans, then gets supported by others within the community, and with enough attention your idea could become the next Lego set. I mentioned Steamboat Willie and Central Perk, but not all these designs are based solely on pop culture products. The first example is today's build, but there are others that are incredibly creative like a pop-up storybook and a ship in a bottle. While I personally do prefer seeing the more pop culture related ones since I'm a pop culture junkie, I'm never going to complain about being able to add a new Lego set to my growing collection. Once I start feeling more confident in my own freehand building abilities, I'd like to take a crack at submitting my own ideas, as well as a video or 2 talking about what ideas kits I'd like to see in the future. Since I've talked everything around the product, let me get to talking about the set with the first fossil I am building, the Pteranodon. With this one's build size being 1 bag, it was the easiest of the 3 to complete, only taking me a little over 20 minutes to finish. I felt like this was a refreshing warm-up of a build for what was to come with the next 2 parts of the set. I think the design of the fossil looks great, having a fully mobile head, wings, beak, legs, and even being able to come off the display stand completely. Plus, what I have not yet to mention about the first bag is that it also has a minifigure of a museum curator, with a working magnifying glass, along with its crate of supplies. These supplies include a book, egg, and a coffee mug. Although I think my favorite of the accessories with this set is its own little toolkit. I don't know whether or not I'm an outlier, but I love it when sets come with such a vast array of accessories. These not only help improve the set by including a hammer and a chisel, which I think is very fitting, but you also get others like a socket wrench, drill, oil can, and many more. Now that I've talked enough about bag 1 and the Pteranodon, I think it's a good time to move on to the second fossil of the build, the Triceratops. With the few problems I had with this set, almost all of them can be brought up during this portion of the build, just so I won't have to go into more detail during the T-Rex part. The beginning of this build starts off well, by giving you a little Lego Sapiens skeleton. I think this is already pretty neat because it can be used as both a display piece or a minifigure. But shortly into making the Triceratops, you will notice that the legs of the fossil are being built directly into the stand of the display. Upon figuring this out, I will admit I was a bit disappointed, because the Pteranodon was completely removable from its display, and the T-Rex will also share this flaw. And yes, while I can see the argument that they are designed this way to keep stability, because if you try to remove them from their displays, their legs just become jelly, in my opinion, it would have been better if these two were both made in a way that they could be removed from their stands. And one day I might even try and do a custom build to fix this in my own way. This could be seen more as a nitpick because these were intended to be museum displays first and playable Legos never. This was the only major flaw I could find with this set personally. But with that 16+ on this specific Ideas kit, it makes sense. Though to piggyback on my complaints about mobility, just with the Triceratops in general, it feels much more rigid than the other two. While I have shown off the extent of what the Pteranodon can do, when even trying to adjust the head sometimes it will pop right off with little effort. As well as having a non-hinged jaw, making it always keep the same facial expression. Thankfully though, its tail is a lot more mobile. Overall, the Triceratops quite reasonably took much longer to build, clocking in around a little over an hour to fully complete. While that does not sound like a long time to build, I felt like the final detriment to the set was unfortunately how many small white parts there were. It would make sense that a display about fossils would have a majority of white pieces, but in many instances I would be stuck looking for about a minute or two hunting down the correct piece. Because of packaging, I feel like both the Triceratops and T-Rex should have had one extra bag to them, but instead they were packaged in a way forcing a lot of extra pieces into a bag. This made it a slight bit overwhelming upon first opening. Though I will admit this complaint could be due to me having a limited building space. With that said though, this will end most of my complaints about this set in general, until my final sum up. But before I move on to the T-Rex, there is one more thing I would like to talk about which I neglected to mention earlier. One of my favorite things about Ideas kits are their instructions. The reason being, not only do they give you information about each of the dinosaurs you're going to create, but you also get some background information on the creators of the set, who in this case are fan designer Jonathan Brunn and LEGO designer Niles Peterson. LEGO could have easily put you on a webpage, or just congratulated you for using your design. The fact that you were put into the instructions of the set you helped bring to life makes me love Ideas kits even further. From now on, when I do Ideas sets, I plan to mention the creators at the beginning of the build, but seeing how they are in the Triceratops booklet, I figured it would be good to mention them here. Plus, I'd like to end this part on a high note. It's time to move on to the final portion of the build, with the big girl herself, the King Tyrant Lizard. Even with my shared complaints on pieces versus bag, how this and the Triceratops were built into the display stand, and me making the most mistakes during this part, this fossil of the three was not only my favorite to show off, but to build as well. Upon completion, she stands at 17 centimeters tall and 39 centimeters long, making her the standout display of the set. While I do love the other two fossils, if this set were just a T-Rex and a bit cheaper, I would be absolutely satisfied with it. Even in the instructions, Niles mentions how proud of the T-Rex skull he was in general, but every bit of this design should be praised with how detailed it is. While this only slightly fuels my disappointment of the legs being built into the display, that doesn't mean her mobility is totally stricken from her. Not only being able to move the tail more freely, but her big head and little arms are quite adjustable as well. This allows a bigger variety of poses ranging from a dignified look to a threatening roar, depending on who's visiting the museum that day. The only additional complaint I could think of is, I did make a lot more mistakes during this part of the build. But I feel that was more me rushing ahead, as opposed to poor instructions, because I have had a few LEGO sets with one or two confusing pages. Even with the hunting, pecking, and rebuilding moments, I was still able to finish this set in under 2 hours, which I felt was a good length for this build honestly, but I'll get more into that in a moment. Seeing how I'm now finished talking about these builds separately, it's time I give my final evaluation for this set as a whole. First, display factor. While the Pteranodon and T-Rex can be very mobile and expressive, it's a shame that the Triceratops is forced to keep the same face. But the thing that makes this set lose the most points for me is the fact that the legs of both the Triceratops and T-Rex are built into the museum stands instead of on top of them. This takes away their versatility as possible undead dinosaurs, ready to attack another LEGO setup. But they were designed to be museum displays, and that's honestly pretty cool enough as is. I mean, they're still LEGO skeleton dinosaurs. This does make them more of a display center, as opposed to an accessory to another, meaning you better have a shelf ready when this one is finished. Next are minifigures, accessories, and extra pieces. To some, it may sound strange to lump these all together, but I do have my reasons for this. In most cases, minifigures are not the focus of a set, but sometimes they can be a selling point. I know I bought a set or two because I wanted a specific minifigure. But unless it's a blind bag, or pop culture based ideas kit, this is where I'll be keeping the minifig category. Extra pieces I can talk about without getting too much into detail. As for accessories, I consider these all the extra little parts, usually handheld things that can go along with a variety of minifigures. First of these are the extra pieces. There isn't too much of note, just 2 small claws and a big claw. Next is the main minifigure included with this set, and that's the paleontologist. His personal accessories are a magnifying glass as well as a bone. And if you want to, you can even include the Lego Sapien in this group, as a spooky boy with style. Though I think the true highlight of these 3 are the accessories just from the utensils kit alone. In this utensils kit you get 9 unique tools. A 4-way lug wrench, crescent wrench, oil can, ratchet, open-end wrench, box wrench, drill, hammer, and screwdriver. This being included in the set was a nice little surprise, because in my case, I'm sure I could find a use for every single one of these tools, if I truly wanted to. It wasn't something that needed to be included in the set, yet here it is. Along with those, we also get a crate of supplies that the professor has. The only one being of note is what I think is supposed to be a broken sword, which I haven't seen before. Now with my final point, and let's be honest, what most people do consider first when buying Legos, and that's price versus build time. When buying Legos, I want it to be worth my time. I don't want to spend $50 on one kit and finish in less than an hour. I really do enjoy builds taking a long time to complete. It usually lets me watch YouTubers, TV shows, or a movie while doing so. This means, my rule of thumb for every $10 a set costs, it should be 100 to 150 pieces. Because this set didn't have to worry about additional copyright, even with a total of 910 pieces, this set only cost $60. Granted, this could be because most of them are smaller. It doesn't take away the fact that it's nearly $1,000 for a good price. It is currently labeled hard to find on the LEGO website, as well as out of stock. This does mean I am unsure how long it will remain that price on the first and second hand market. The best places to look for this set are Barnes & Noble and Amazon for the time being. As for length of time for this build, I clocked in at just over 3 hours to finish these fossils. A little over 20 minutes for the Pteranodon, an hour and 15 for the Triceratops, and almost 2 hours for the T-Rex. And even though I bashed on the skull of the Triceratops, each of these designs came out fantastic. Exactly what you'd expect from LEGO skeleton dinosaurs. I can say without a doubt this one was well worth my time and money to build. With the combination of effort taking Jonathan 2 years to put these models together for this display, and the fantastic redesigns Niles did to bring this set to life, I give LEGO Ideas Kit number 28, the Dinosaur Fossils, a 9 out of 10, a nearly perfect set to me. I had a ton of fun making it and it adds a lot to my collection. The parts I want to highlight of this set are the 3 instruction booklets as well as the build time versus price. I think it's incredibly unique that it allows up to 3 people to build this together, and if you're building solo it's going to take you at least 2 hours to finish, making that original price of $60 well worth that time and effort. Though listing the good, I do have to list the bad, and this set only loses points for me because it does think that something as cool as LEGO skeleton dinosaurs are limited to museum displays by design. But if you can see past that fault I have with the set, then you might see these LEGOs as a 10. Also Niles and Jonathan, if y'all want to team up again to give us a LEGO Brontosaurus, you can put me first on that order list.